Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome back to Houselights, our director discussion show here on the Nerd Party Network. We've been going through a romantic comedy spell with the Ephron Hallway. This week, we're rounding out that trio we started with Harry Met Sally and Sleepless in Seattle with the 1998 hit, You've Got Mail. Or what happens when AOL Time Warner makes a movie starring America Online Email, marketed by Time Magazine and produced by Warner Brothers. I'm Darren Moser, and I'm joined again by my friends, the small Etsy bookstore owner, Tristan Riddell, and the big box book magnet, John Mill. That's MIL. Gentlemen, connect your modems and prepare to get online with the most 90s of 90s movies of You've Got Mail.
That could have been one of the meanest things you've ever said to me.
What, that you were an Etsy bookstore owner?
An Etsy bookstore.
Hey,
I was trying to think of something modern that was kind of an equivalent.
I'm the
Because we all know
corporate
normal
guy.
bookstore.
That fits.
Well, we were joking, my wife and I, when we watched this, that this is happening now. Is all the big bookstores are going out of business for Amazon. The cycle is complete.
I still don't know how Barnes and Noble has held on at all. They're finally folding, and
they've been folding for years around us.
No,
and
but
whenever one comes around, I'm just like, oh my god, yes, a physical book. I can go.
No, but they've been folding so much more slowly than Borders did. Borders was gone overnight.
Oh
yeah,
Borders took a gun to the head. They were just like, I don't want to live anymore.
Yeah, Borders threw themselves into traffic.
I went to a Borders that was closing and having their like purge sale, and I picked up a like 1998, 1997 copy, pre-special edition copy of Star Wars with the tape on the bottom. Had not been opened, like a trilogy pack, and I was like, this is going on the shelf because I don't know how long this has been sitting around. But yes, well, this movie is reuniting Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, again, back from Sleepless in Seattle. A few years later, they're a little bit older. The internet is a thing now, apparently. And my goodness, this is such a 90s movie, but in a good way. Like, it really just feels like, yeah, this is what the end of the millennium was like for a lot of us.
And they opened with the Cranberries. You can't get much, much more 90s.
Oh yeah, from about 1996 or 7 to 2000, you had to have one of those Cranberry songs in there because that meant that you got it. Like you knew when you hear that guitar, that echoey guitar start up, you're like, yeah. I'm hip. I'm dealing with the times.
You're a normal person.
Yeah.
You're in society. You know what's going on.
There's a spring in my step despite the sadness in my heart. I know I got to keep moving. And it's like, that's when I put the Cranberries on, that sort of thing.
Man. Well, and first we have the, I guess somebody watched Star Trek 2 and really likes CG cityscapes or something as we slowly, fly around. I mean, granted, in 1998, this is great stuff, but I could pull up something 100 times better on my phone and Google Maps right now. But
no, but that was actually my thought looking at it, was how quaint it is to go back, because the final shot where it goes real, I think to myself, this is pretty much what it looks like now. I would love to see them like progress it further, like,
But I liked that. Like I really liked it because
I love the shot where it like loads the island and it's like loading the textures and chunks, and you're like, oh, I remember that.
And I love the final shot where you have like this really rudimentary jogger going through, and
you're like, why is there a jogger there? Oh, he'll be back. He'll be back.
And then you see the real jogger. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Oh no, I'm not saying I don't love it. I'm just saying it is definitely cutting edge at the time.
Well, and what I love most about it is the angsty rant at the beginning from Greg Kinnear, where he's talking about, it's the end of Western civilization. And I love sitting there because there's actually, you work with people and you're friends with people and everything where it's such every 5 to 10 years, the new technology, like right now it's ChatGPT. It's the end of Western civilization. Right. We're all going to die. And it's like, we've been down this road before, guys. Can we just calm down?
So not a lot of people watch this movie, and that's okay. But it was a Seth MacFarlane directed picture.
Oh, I thought you were talking about You've Got Mail for a second. I'm like, Tristan, it made $250 million. Okay, wait. I get what you're saying.
No.
I should give you an extra
Seth
second to talk.
picture, and it's called A Million Ways to Die in the West. And there, it takes place in Western days, and you see Seth MacFarlane and Giovanni Ribisi, and like they're walking down the road, and there's kids with a hoop and a stick, and they're hitting the hoop and the stick, and they're just having a gay old time, and they're both talking to each other, and there's like, you know what? This is crazy, kids nowadays. Like they're relying too much on technology to have fun.
Right.
And like, talk to me in 10 years when they have like a shrunken pleasure center in their brain from, like too much, like not sensitivity, but like too much
exposure.
Stimulation.
Stimulation. That's the word I was looking for. Too much stimulation. And it's so funny because there was even a line in Mad Men where they said that, like, I'm sure there were some people in the Bible who just stopped what they were doing and said, kids these days.
Yes.
It's universal.
Yes. And the fascinating thing to me is remembering very clearly the Y2K freak out. So 1998, we're just cresting the hill. Yep. The press is just about to decide to make us worried about something else that's a non-issue. So
I still have a VHS copy of taped off of television called Y2K the movie, where everything goes wrong and like nuclear power plants go off and planes fall out. Now I will say, the concern was warranted, and the problem was solved, which is why things didn't go bad. It's not things didn't go bad, so there was no cause to be no, there was cause.
No, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I actually know people who worked on it, and they're like, no, the reason why the world didn't explode is because I put in 80-hour work weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that's true, but the hysteria around it was framed as if that work wasn't going to get done.
Yes.
As opposed to saying, don't worry, some people are going to have to pull some long hours, get some overtime, and they're going to get it done.
Because it's news. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, just the fact of picture this one scenario of, okay, imagine Kaiser all of a sudden doesn't know the age of their members for childhood immunizations, and every child misses their immunizations for like 2 months. You know how bad that would be, like, and how that would cascade throughout time. Anyway, this is not the Y2K podcast. That's a different movie.
That's the thing, man. I think that's a credit to this film, is that it's not because it's trying to be 90s. It's not like 90s.
It just was.
It just was. Yes, exactly. It's not 90s in a weird, gawky kind of way. It was just a very much of its time.
Different than like Clueless. Like Clueless is that era too, but it's kind of more like doubling down. Like I don't feel like people dress up as Clueless if they're going to a 90s party. People don't dress up as You've Got Mail to a 90s party. It just this is what it looked like.
Well, I mean, Clueless is made like it was very self-aware at the time.
True.
It was saying we are always this is the time we're going to turn it up to 11. We're going to just
a snapshot of this moment in.
Whereas this is
this one goes up to 11,
right? But what I found extremely interesting about this is the whole premise of it is something that I witnessed happen with a lot of people at the time, and even afterward, because when social media became a big thing around the MySpace days,
you mean the people starting to connect with people outside that they haven't met yet through this ubiquitous internet?
I'll put it this way: the emotional infidelities of online life.
Oh man, clock it. Okay, we're at 9 minutes, and John starts talking about emotional infidelity. Okay. Now,
wow!
Now we have
I was
that was
a
little
too.
bit catty.
No, I was going to get there too
catty.
because
good Lord, I'm saying that I remember this type of stuff happening, like where people, and I think there is a moment where she's talking to one of her employees, And the employee asks, have you had cyber sex yet? And she's like, then it's not cheating. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, but like there's this wavering emotionally with her relationship that's already happening. I'm not sitting here judging her, but I'm saying, like, I saw this happen with a lot of people, and it's a really tricky space for the movie to be in, sort of thing.
So yeah, it's been a while since I'd watched this movie. I mean, I'd seen it most likely just one of those movies you see when you're a film student. Like, it's not a bad movie. I hadn't even seen it in theaters. It's just, you've got mail. But on this rewatch, I was really struck by, and I'm curious of your both opinions. Did Joe Fox and Kathleen Kelly need to be in relationships currently at the beginning of this movie? Because the first half of this movie is a hot mess. I mean, we're going to get to the Fox family tree in a moment. Dear Lord. But honestly, once it kind of shifts into the second half, once we have the Joe discovers that who she actually is and things like that, it's kind of like a whole different movie. And I almost feel like, yeah, you could say that the first half is we're seeing what they're like in these bad relationships or whatever. But John, do you feel like they needed that in this story, or they could have just been two single people with this connection through email? Did we need them to be in the tarot? I mean, it's not as bad as what was it? Wilford? What's his name? Future president of the United States from Sleepless. What did he go by? What? Sorry.
Walt.
Bill Pullman.
Walter.
Sorry. It's not as bad as Walter, but like the people they're in relationships with are terrible people, like on purpose.
I take offense to that about Walter. I'm a staunch defender of Walter. Moving on.
No, well, we talked last week though about how he was purposely bad.
They amped up his flaw. Like, let's put Walter to the side here because I know it's a very touchy subject.
We already talked about Walter.
Yeah. I caught a lot of heat from at least one of our dear listeners who really took issue with my issues with Walter. So
righteous heat. Yeah, but we're moving on.
Moving on to the gem that is Frank and who was the
Parker Posey.
Posey, yes.
So no, I don't think the movie needs them. I don't. I think that the way they resolve them is needed simply because of their existence in the script. So I think it resolves them cleanly enough, which at the beginning, I was like, oh boy, how are we going to resolve this one? And it winds up resolving them cleanly enough. And I think that it plays into one of the larger story points, which is both, both Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan are being more honest with that screen. And I think
than they are in real life with their actual partners. Yeah.
Yeah. You could have said, well, they're just, that was the whole appeal of this. And it's the whole appeal of the relationships that strike up on social media is you don't have the real world baggage with somebody.
Right. There's no specifics. I'm just sharing about my day.
They can't leave the toilet seat up. They can't forget to do the dishes. They can't fart too loudly in public. Like, there's none of those things that go along with a string of letters on the screen. And you can sort of mold things and be more open if you choose to.
I think
that this is one of those ones where I sort of split the difference and cop out a little bit to say, I don't think they're needed. I think this film could have existed perfectly fine without them, but it resolves their stories cleanly enough.
So it wasn't a detriment as much.
Not perfectly, but cleanly enough that Parker Posey exists so that Meg Ryan can have a positive future presented to her at the end. And Greg Kinnear's character serves the purpose of sparking the conflict between the two characters and amping that up to 11 so that it's not just this abstract, you're a big business, you're a small business, we must be enemies.
They take it to the mattresses and it makes it much worse.
And once he comes into it, There you
I
go.
think that's the thing, though. I think like what you just said is a good enough reason to have them in the picture. Now they could have been friend. I think Greg Kinnear could have been a friend, in that realm to
Like her
kind of
guy friend
spark.
that she shares about her relation. Yeah.
Yeah, or like the guy that she knows the papers. Like she goes specifically to him saying like, "Hey, I want you to write about this." Like that could have taken place. I think I think between the two of them, Parker Posey totally could have. I think Tom Hanks didn't need to be in a relationship, but I really like the relationship between Greg
Yeah.
Kinnear and Meg Ryan because of his. He has a voice, he has a perspective, and I
An
really
ego.
love their yeah, very much an ego, and I really like their breakup scene because it's so civil. Yes, it's fantasy. It's
Right.
movies in the making. But I really like that breakup
They
scene
both
because
realize
it's
they're not in love with each other.
yes, and there's no bickering, there's no arguing. It's kind of what I like. One of the reasons, speaking of Walter, it's kind of why I like the ending of the Walter and Meg Ryan relationship in Sleepless in Seattle is because Walter kind of, sacks up and realizes that he doesn't want to be with someone who
He's
doesn't want
second
to be with
choice.
him.
Yeah.
And Greg Kinnear understands like, well, I don't really love you either, and you don't love me, so let's just shake hands and part ways. And I just really, really like that.
Yeah, something I want to hit on though, just because we keep doing this where we say Greg Kinnear, Parker Posey, Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan. Do you think that there are any performances here that step through and you forget that you're watching somebody playing a part?
No,
And
this is
is
a
that
90s rom-com, John.
Yeah,
This is a
that's true.
90s rom-com. We're
Yeah,
not
I
talking
don't
about
think.
Johnny Depp or Gary
No,
Oldman
that's a good
disappearing in the
question.
role.
that's
But no,
true?
I think you're right though. I don't feel like granted, Joe Fox is different than Sleepless in Seattle. Like he's a bit more the, of an asshole and a jerk and he's but yeah, no, I think in this stage like calling him Tom Hanks or calling him Joe Fox is interchangeable at this point. It doesn't it's not like
Well, then
FOX.
let me ask this question as a follow-up. Do you think this movie winds up being successful? Say they trade talent for talent, that it's equal levels of talent. Do you think this movie winds up being more successful and endearing if Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan aren't in those roles, or do you think that it cheats its way into your heart by using those two actors, knowing that you're going to go into the theater saying, "Oh, it's Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, yay!" and you're more receptive to this whole thing?
I want Tristan to answer first because I'm going to take it in a different direction. So,
I love that question. I think that's a great question because one of the first things I thought of or remembered, I should say, when I did this rewatch was I remember having so many people ask the question, "Wait, so are they the same people? Are they the same characters?" And I remember
valid
news
question.
stories. It's a valid question. I remember news stories saying, "No, they're not the same people. They're it's just Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan being romantic leads in a movie again because everybody forgets Joe and the Volcano."
That's right.
But I this movie is not as successful. I mean, 90s rom-coms were great. I miss them. I cherish them. But there's a reason why we had movie stars for so long as we did. Like, I know the conversation very much as of right now is like, who are the remaining movie stars? Is The Rock still a remaining movie star? Definitely Tom Cruise, like everything like that. Like those are the conversations that are happening right now. Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, boom, they put butts in seats. If this was
Yeah.
just if they put no names in there, you'd have no story. For the media, I should say, you have no angle in promotion. And so I say, even though this is a good say that they gave identical performances, but if it's a different face, different voice, whatever, identical performances, same kind of charm, this would still be a good movie, but it would not make $250 million in 1998 money.
No, I agree. And that's the direction I wanted to take it because I feel just like you said, Tristan, yeah, this is a vehicle to put Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks together, but the story on its own is a great story. But so I think the story could carry itself with other actors, but I don't think butts would get in the seats because they don't know who they are.
Oh yeah, but that is the core of my question. Do you think I'm not talking about box office. I'm talking about would it be as warmly received by audiences?
Box office is all that matters, John.
You know what? I forgot that. You're absolutely correct.
That's why Michael Bay is the greatest director of all time.
And won all those Oscars.
And obviously the Fast franchise is the greatest film series ever made.
But let's not get carried away.
No, obviously, we care a little bit more about the art. But no, so this is based off of a movie, which was a play and a story called The Shop Around the Corner, which is one of the main reasons that Meg Ryan, Kathleen Kelly's bookstore is called The Shop Around the Corner. And she doesn't have the trademark on it, even though, she's literally just around the corner. But this movie is a 1949 Jimmy Stewart classic. And I was able to rewatch it before doing You've Got Mail because I wanted to do that comparison. It is very much the same story. I mean, obviously a little bit of a difference where they are not in previous relationships before, but pretty much seeing her at the restaurant and him seeing her first and making the decision to take it in that direction is beat for beat out of that movie. He has his friend in this movie played by Dave Chappelle, but seeing oh, is she there? Is she beautiful? And it's like, oh, well, she kind of looks like so-and-so. And it's like, oh, well, who cares about so-and-so? Well, if you don't like so-and-so, you're not going to like her because it is so-and-so. Like that is straight out of that movie. So oh my gosh, it is such a fun. So talk about Shop Around the Corner for a second. I mean, it's black and white. It's again just this little shop and the people that work there, and again very same beats of they're kind of mean and nasty to each other. They in the movie they're just they're two employees. One's a little higher seniority, one's not, but it's just such a good movie. It's such your heart feels warmed by it. People are just decent to each other the entire time. Everyone's Mr. This and Mrs. This. And I'm blanking on the name, but the actor who plays the Wizard of the Wizard of Oz is the main owner of the store. So highly, highly recommend it. If you can find a copy, give it a watch, and you will definitely see the parallels in You've Got Mail. Not that it's a copy, but just you could tell this is the story. And this story has been done many times. There was a Julie Garland movie that was also kind of based off of. So this boy meets girl and hate each other, and then boy discover like with the pen pal. That's an important aspect of it. And then the boy finds out, oh, I know who you actually are, and then kind of weaves this new direction while stringing her along. Obviously, email is the new venue for this story. So I could totally see the pitch meeting of like, oh, let's take this movie where it was pen pals and we own AOL, so let's make it You've Got Mail.
It makes sense.
But
like,
it works.
One of those
it really does.
Stories. Yeah. This is one of those stories that really lends itself to an update where you're not forcing it. It's a natural evolution and a progression.
I mean, 49 to 98 is a bit of a jump. I think it's time.
Well, I think that one of the things that makes this work, and I have not seen The Shop Around the Corner. I plan to, I want to, didn't have the chance this time.
Failed on your homework. It's okay, John.
Yeah, that's not the first time somebody said that. And I just want to go ahead and say that what makes this more successful structure-wise than Sleepless in Seattle is, Darren, earlier you mentioned how it sort of gear shifts and becomes a little bit of a different movie later on. And you're absolutely right. It does. And it pivots. And I think very much the movie's credit, it has the Tom Hanks character do the work to establish a relationship with Meg Ryan to make sure that there's actually a connection there, that there is a human connection there that is forming. And I think it's also, this would be something where I would give tribute to Hanks, where he does an excellent job of being sly without being smarmy about planting the clues. He keeps giving her clues as to who he really is, and she just doesn't see past it. And he never holds it against her. He just keeps throwing those little breadcrumbs there in their scenes, and she just isn't picking up on it. But then the way it resolves itself, because spoilers, it's a romantic comedy. They get together.
What? They get together in the end?
But that's why
that's a tightrope That is an absolute tightrope that Tom Hanks walks at the end, is because this could have been very, very creepy at the end, where like he knows, like in the power dynamic
He has
could be a
all the
little.
power.
Yeah, exactly. Like he could manipulate her in order to get information, or he could manipulate her in order to woo her in a way to lead her away from himself, his online self. Like it could have been played in a very creepy, not so nice way, where you're just kind of like, I don't know how I feel about that. But he pulls it off with being jokey about it, where like with the whole like, oh, Mr. New York who had 152
Right.
moles
The
removed from his
username.
face, like that kind of thing, where like when he's making a joke about him, he's making a joke about himself, but he's not doing it eh, where it gives him an edge or an advantage, or puts her in a spot where she is devoid of agency.
Yeah, and he also doesn't cut it off from the other end, where as the online performance, he doesn't start acting like a jerk to get her to, because eventually if they get together, like she's going to know it's him, so he can't like push him onto himself. But no, like you said, Tristan, it's a tightrope, but it, and I think vastly better than Sleepless in Seattle, where you buy it. Like by the time, like he is landing this plane, he's building the plane and landing it at the same time. So when it touches down at the very end and you have the meet cute and he's putting it on the line, and her, like, I was hoping it was you, like, you believe it. You believe that because that is the plane you have to land. Because if you don't make that convincing, not just with what she can say, whatever, that's how the script goes. But if we haven't been taken there through the second half of this movie to buy, like, why on earth would she love this guy who did run her out of business, and but we saw him change, and so yeah, so the second half, and I'm not bashing on the first half. The Fox family tree again just we got troubles and it weirds me out, but
I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that that's the one part that remains clunky to me, as I revisit it mentally and everything, is I love Dabney Coleman. He's one of those those supporting players that I always love seeing show up. She obviously couldn't get Rob Reiner, so she got Carl Reiner. Okay, Reiner for Reiner, sure. But that is the part that seems a little too messy to me, is to simply basically, it could have been a lot more streamlined and simply have it be just Dabney Coleman and he's retiring and Tom Hanks is taking over the company. And you have a couple of conversations where he talks about, Dad, you weren't exactly the best model for a relationship. That's why I haven't gotten married to anybody, is because I look at what you did. But instead,
or
they
you
have
could
this,
even
like,
have the three generations, which I liked. I liked how they're all on their boats at the end, and like there was a lot of great material, but the way they went about it, like, it was odd.
It just seemed a little clunky to me, although the existence of the kids gives a reason for him to meet her, but that still could have been cleaner and just said, "Oh, these are my."
He could also have a sister, and they could be his niece and nephew. It doesn't have to be brother and aunt.
But he could just say, "This is my sister and brother." It's like, your sister and brother. It's like, yeah, my dad got married a couple of times, and she's number 3's daughter, and he's number 4's son.
Right,
as someone who comes from a weird, like, situation, or I should say uncommon, I really appreciated that. Like, I liked seeing that, because I have, like, I'm 36 and I have a half sibling who's 56, and I my dad is the oldest, and his brother is 40 years younger than him, and like my grandmother and my dad's first wife were pregnant at the same time, and like my great uncle was once
kind of like Father of the
engaged
Bride too.
to my grandmother. Like it was. I have tons of interaction between both sides of my mom's side and my dad's side, and like tons of age differences, and so like somebody's second cousin is also their uncle, like no incesty stuff going on, but a lot of complicated
The branches
hoops
go
to jump through.
sideways instead of always up and down.
And so I actually really, really like that, because I was an uncle when I was 6 years old, and just I just really like that kind of stuff.
I'm not knocking it because it's for any other reason than this is a movie, and so I want to see things streamlined. That you get what I'm saying? Like I think that
life is complex, John. It's
but my movies don't need to be.
But their last
ugly.
name is not FOX, the simplest
Right.
of last names.
I like if I see an opportunity where a movie or a script or something could run at an hour and 45 instead of 2 hours, because you have to build in all of this extra explanation and interplay because you've decided to lean into that complexity, I might look at it and say, you could tighten that up. That's all I'm saying.
It was a 20-second scene. It was a 20-second scene.
Okay.
Give me a break.
But like you said, John, it was a vehicle to get him in the store. And now he's seeing her, and he's seeing and the before, which I'm saying the before he finds out who she really is, he's even also kind of holding the power at that moment, because he knows he's Joe Fox of this giant store that's coming around the corner, patent pending, around the corner, and she doesn't. And so of course she's treating him nicely because she's a nice person. And I love the subtle, like, he does, he takes the idea of the printed bags and puts that in his store. Like, he's all like, when he's playing hardball at the beginning, he is manipulating and using her, not to a huge degree, but he is definitely but what do you guys think about when it goes to the mattresses? Because I guess we got all close to Godfather now that I've seen it. But that turn in the story where she's now, because this was very interesting to watch, because it was very much the big business coming in, treading on the little guy, or like all your mom and pops. And it's interesting now, again, removed, seeing the big businesses fall because of the internet. Like, it's like the next domino has fallen. And that's really only because now it's 2023 and this was 1998. But what do you guys feel like that take on that David Goliath? If we, and I like kind of how they portrayed it, of like, we rallied and we petitioned and we did all this, and it made no difference to our bottom line, because at the end of the day, it's a business and they're cheaper.
Yeah,
I mean, that pretty much summed it up right there. Yeah, I think it's a David and Goliath story that will never get old. I mean, it's timeless. We're talking about a biblical story that has been retold thousands, if not millions of times in different ways. And this is one of those times where, now granted, we're talking about David and Goliath, and David defeated Goliath, but in this one, that's not what happened.
That's true. It's the struggle is what they're talking about. But you're
struggle,
right.
Yes,
they didn't.
Exactly.
It didn't play out quite like the biblical tale. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, David also didn't have to deal with zoning committees and city councils and stuff like that to put his building in place and grease the levers of power with promises of different sorts of things that the businesses do. But like, I mean,
a sling and a lute. That's all he needed.
Yeah. But that is very apt, because in a sense, it doesn't ever call the audience out on it, but this isn't the movie to do that sort of thing. But there is that sort of undercurrent of it made no difference. And it's that realization of people can get all worked up that they want to about a situation like this. But you walk into somebody and you say, hey, here's the same product, and you can go here and get it for 15% less, or you can pay more, or you can pay more and help out your neighbor. 100% of the time, if it's a blind situation, people will say, I'm going to pay 15% less.
I signed a change.org petition, John.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, okay. Please.
But I love, besides the fact of how it plays out, there's two things I really like about, and because again, they didn't have to be part of the story, but I like how they're so realistic. How she had her friend who was a publisher, who was like at the beginning, like, I really want, to support you. And then eventually started her book deal, which again, it's her business too. She has to promote her book, and where is she going to get more business? Like, and I love how Kathleen Kelly wasn't upset, didn't call her up and say, how could you do this to me? Like, she gets it. She, you know, she understands that her friend had to make that choice. But then the later moment when the surrogate mother, old lady, I again don't remember her name, but
Jean Stapleton,
you know, when she was
you
saying,
remember Jean Stapleton's name when you're on this podcast.
Okay. But when she's like, you're doing the braver thing because you're choosing to believe in a world where you aren't just a bookstore owner. And I'm like, yeah, she was trying to like pump her up, but it's also kind of true. Like, that is a risk. That is the unknown that is going off and doing something else. And especially something you inherited from your mother. Like, was this ever the thing that you really wanted to do? And obviously she got a lot of joy out of it and was very good at her job. But John, what did you think of that not twist, but just that portrayal of, because, you know, we all kind of saw it coming. Like, there's no twist at the end where she saves the corner.
Or even if she saved it, it was going to be a short-lived victory sort of
Right.
thing. I mean, you know, I mean, honestly, it's that I don't know how well the movie really calls it out. That scene is a good call out of it, but maybe I would have preferred, I don't know, even more of a moment to land. But, you know, we do get her, you know, seeing her mom playing with her as a kid in a vision sort of thing.
That was
Jean
very
Stapleton
touching.
talking to her. But it is that sort of that realism, that pragmatism about the story where it's like, you know, the world's going to change and you're not always going to like how it changes. And yes, it is good that Jean Stapleton has that moment where she says, you're choosing to have faith in yourself, basically, that this isn't, you know, this business might go away, but that doesn't mean that you go away. You just have to find a different place for yourself out there. And that, I think, is, you know, that's definitely an important lesson for the
I feel
audience.
that's rare
for
in a
the
movie,
character,
because usually the story is conformed to make them win.
Absolutely. But I mean, but when they
Maybe not this kind of movie,
not
but in
just
general.
win, but also when they lose, typically in a story like this, there's this sort of like righteousness that the audience gets to feel. Whereas this is a much softer sort of, you're not going to restart a new bookstore. You're not going to work for him and then take things over. You're not going to infiltrate the board or anything. You're just going to accept that there's just nothing you could do here. I mean, in a sense, it's a lot like Rocky, where it's like, so long as I go the distance, that's all that matters. I gave it my all.
Right.
It doesn't matter whether I won or not.
And if they wanted to stretch this out, like, actually one thing that really, upon this rewatch, that my wife and I noticed was just like, why would they need that many people working at that time?
I did think that too. I've gone to a used bookstore when I was looking for a book. I didn't realize it was a used bookstore, but it was. And there was one man in the front at the counter. That was it. And I'm like, there's quite a, like, man, 90s were pumping. You had like businesses just giving away jobs.
I want to say that there was near where I went to high school, there was a beloved institution of a used bookstore called Barbarian Books and Comics. And everybody went there for their comic books. But they had this insane used book section that was massively disorganized and nobody could make any sense of it. And you couldn't find anything. And I still miss it. And I had some terrific memories in Barbarian. But to your point, when he got an employee, that was like, wow, hey, happy days are here, man. You have somebody working for you, because typically you would just sit behind the counter. It was like, I'm looking for this. And it's like, yeah, go over there and find it your damn self. And then like he got somebody and it was like, all right, Ray, come on up, man. I love that.
Yeah, if this movie was just a little bit more realistic, like Steve Zahn would have been fired first.
Yes.
Then, you know, Heather Burns. And actually, no, probably, you know.
No, I think it would have been
Jean Stapleton's the first one out.
Because she's independently wealthy.
Yeah. And she's also carrying the most salary by that point.
Or I think there would have been a moment when Kathleen Kelly is trying to make the decision and Jean Stapleton bows out because she's like, I don't need this
yeah.
job. Keep your friend a little longer. And then it's just the two of them left at the very end. I could see that happening.
I think I kind of wish that would have happened. Now that I'm saying it out loud, because I feel like it
I
would
think
have kind of
more realistic, because they
it
went
would've
from
yeah.
it's going to close to the B story, not B story, but like I said, that second half is very different very
But
quickly.
it was very abrupt too, because like they go from like she's doing news interviews and she's up in front of a microphone, and then like it feels like half a heartbeat later, that she's like, what are you gonna do? And she's like, oh well, we're gonna close.
Well, I will say one of the things that my wife noticed, which I like also about this movie, is it talks about seasons, really. Like it starts in the fall, like we're pushing through that leaf branch as we transition inside, and then it's winter, or it's Halloween at the beginning. We're carving pumpkins, and then we're putting up Christmas lights. So I do agree, it does feel a bit jarring, but in the grander scheme, the movie is taking place over several months and seasons, and it's also reflecting on seasons of your life as you're kind of transitioning through. But yes, it did kind of feel like, and we're done with that story. Now we're going to focus on he knows and she doesn't, and that's going to be the rest of the movie, which it was.
I will say, watching this, and it only gets more and more acute because we are in the the age of the algorithm, the false choice, the hallways that they shove you down, and everything like that when you're going through online and everything. But there is a small pang that I feel seeing, Kathleen's bookstore, and thinking of those used bookstores, and thinking of those small record shops like Phantasmagoria that was near, again, where I went to
comic
school,
shops, or anything that's small
where
and specific.
But if you wanted to find something unexpected, it was a lot easier because you could go in and talk to a person and say, I don't know, I'm kind of in the mood for something like,
or even
like
Blockbuster.
This.
Just something where you could just...
No, Blockbuster was the Fox Books of the world. I remember the old mom and pop.
Okay,
I remember the old mom and pop
Planet
shops
and stuff like that. You're right. You're right.
I'm talking those old school. You knew the guy that ran the place, and or went in there often enough that like they knew your parents, sort of thing. And you would walk in, you're like,
it's like, hey, Mr. Mills, for Friday night, I got something you might like here.
No copies of Batman this week. However, over here,
I've already
every once in a while you get a free one where they're just like, you know what, you come in here all the time. You this one's on the house. Like that's not going to happen on Fox Books.
No.
I remember there was one time I'm not going to say what the movie is because John will head will explode. But like there was a movie that I hadn't seen in a series, and no one had it. No one had it in town. Like no one was selling it. No anything like that. So I went to a mom and pop video shop that I knew, and I said, I was like, how do I get this? So they're like, we'll order it for you, come in next week. You couldn't do that. Like this was before you could order stuff, like anything, before you could order VHS
unless you were a distributor or had a connection.
I have to know. This is a podcast full of honesty, Tristan. I have to know what this is.
It was the third Highlander film.
All of us made that mistake, Tristan. All of us made the mistake to say, you know what? They screwed up so bad in the second one. I bet they learned their lessons. You went to a video store. I made that mistake in a movie theater. It's okay. There's no judgment here. Thank you for being open.
I'd never seen it before. It's not like I'd seen it and I loved it so much I needed to own it. I had never seen it before. And
that's a different conversation. I'm being very understanding right here. I get it. It's all right.
I know there's a twinge in your heartstrings when it comes to Highlander. So
I'm sorry you went to that much trouble for Highlander 3, but it's more of a commiseration sort of thing.
He's like, due to ordering it is now $55.55 to rent this. You're like, wait, what? No one else is going to be.
I'm sorry, what?
All right. Well, as we're rounding third here, just a few more little points. I love Dave Chappelle's little role. I always forget he's in this movie, and then it's like, oh, look, it's Dave Chappelle.
Chappelle.
And he's so great as like the friend. And
I love the story behind his casting.
I don't know the story. What was that?
Yeah, he was offered the role of Bubba in Forrest Gump.
Okay.
And he turned it down, saying, this movie's gonna suck. It's gonna flop.
AKA Forrest Gump, the winner of 11 Academy Awards, and
yeah,
geez.
and he like after it swept the Oscars and made so much money, he's like, son of a bitch. And
it's like, hey Tom, hey buddy,
yeah,
hey,
and that's the thing is that like he told Tom Hanks, he's like, man, I hate that I did that. And so Hanks went to Ephron when this movie came about. He went to Ephron and said, hey, Chappelle would be great for this role. Let's get him. And Chappelle was just like, yes, of course, yes, Tom Hanks movie, yes, I will absolutely do.
You don't have to pay me. I'll just show up.
But I cannot see him as Bubba though. I'm so glad that it happened this way.
Oh yeah, no, Michael T. Williamson was the perfect casting for that
absolutely.
role. No, yeah.
But he's great at this. He's the friend. I also love, again, just little things like, because again, we've talked a ton about Nora Ephron. We talked about her work, so maybe not by name, but I love that, like the fact that he sees her, or what is it, the other way around? One of them sees the other on like the TV, and that leads to the next moment. Oh, that's what it was. Sorry. So there's the interview that he's watching while he's running on the treadmill, and she's obviously watching it too. And so that's when we see Joe Fox again, and that's when then the next time they meet. So it's just little things like that of like when they know who each other's are. It all kind of plays out really well. Like it's very smartly written.
And that was a hilarious scene, by the way, when he's on the treadmill.
He's like, I didn't say
I was
that.
eloquent.
Yeah.
He's like, we sell cheap books. Cut. And
So
it's like, wait. It's like, well, like, oh yeah. That's what the media will do, is they will totally chop up your soundbite to fit whatever they want it to say.
Absolutely.
But in the end, it didn't matter. And one last round around music. So we have George Fenton coming back, who we've also heard do Groundhog's Day, Ever After, Memphis Belle, to name a few. But I think, it really is the pop culture songs in this one. Like, Tristan was talking about that opening song where you feel like you're either in Felicity or You've Got Mail, or so you are in the 90s. You are rooted deep there. What do you guys think is overall just the music cues? Because there were quite a few in this one.
I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought this was very I think the only thing that really insisted upon itself was the Cranberry song, but at the same time you're like, oh god, it's the Cranberries, but then you catch yourself just kind of jiggling your head a little
you're
bit.
like, oh, I love you, Cranberries, I can't be mad at you.
No. Give it a try. But I think that yes, but I think that the soundtrack is good, but what I think is interesting about it is if I compare this to Sleepless in Seattle to You've Got Mail, I would argue that the Tarantino effect has happened between 93 and 98. So I think there's a little bit more pressure on soundtracks to have a little bit more of that kind of flow and feel, to be
more soundtrack instead of score.
Well, to be more of a like a pop culture, patchwork, the way that Tarantino approaches it. So you get that healthy mix of like, even no matter how you feel about the movie, this is an incredible mixtape. And so you'll buy the soundtrack and you'll love it. And if it works with the scenes, then it works really, really well with the scenes, sort of thing. So, I think that's, yeah. So I think the music works better than it did, for Sleepless in Seattle.
I want to, if you don't mind, I want to shift gears just a little bit because I really wanted to talk about the cinematography of this film, because I feel like it
makes New York look beautiful. But yes, go on.
Oh my gosh, yeah, like we've seen so many movies that take place in New York, and you can really make New York look however you want it to because it's so gigantic and so massive. Like you can go and find whatever you want.
Because this is West Side New York, right? I think they state that a couple of times.
Yes, yeah. John Lindley is the one who photographed this, and this guy owned the 90s. And so in 89 he photographed Field of Dreams, And then in the 90s, it did Sleeping with the Enemy, Father of the Bride, Sneakers, The Good Son, I Love Trouble, Michael, Pleasantville, Then You've Got Mail, and also Freedom Song, which was a
little
TV
more
movie.
color and You've Got Mail than Pleasantville, but good.
But it's just when you think about the photography styles of Father of the Bride and Michael, and You've Got Mail, you're like, oh, of course, yeah, the same guy clearly photographed these. And so I feel like this is one of those things where Nora Ephron, as a director, is there for the story and the acting, and then lets other people kind of handle the technical side of things with editing and cinematography and music. That's just my guess after, with hindsight being 2020 and everything like that, and going through analysis. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm not saying this is a good thing. It's just a thing that is. It's kind of like we always go back to, what does a Nolan film look like when Wally's gone? We're like, oh crap, it just looks like a Nolan film. I don't think this is that situation.
No.
Because Lindley's work is very distinctive for what he wants at that time. I mean, like, for the era of its of that it exists in. And
lots of like shallow depth of field. There's a lot of times when they're on the front and like the background is just kind of beautiful. It's well lit, but it's just very shallow and fuzzy, and lots of
also very
wood
glowy
everywhere.
lights.
Yeah. Very
like
soft.
really soft, glowy lights that Spielberg and Janusz stole for the early 2000s. They got a lot of inspiration from that, I think. At least that's my
like when they're analysis. One of the few times like when they're starting to grow together and they're on the sidewalk and it's a reverse shot, and it's again very beautiful because very long lens, because they're in focus, but then everything behind them in both directions are just a blur, but not in a distracting blur like they feel like they're on a bad green screen, but in a, I know where you are and I know where the camera is, but it's just obviously where I'm supposed to focus on. Even good shots of the computer screen. Computer screens are tricky to shoot and make look good with the typing and the cursors and all that.
I remember there was one time David Fincher, the director, talked about
Fincher, okay,
shooting a computer screen, and he says, he's like, oh yeah, like a lot of people thought I was like when I did Dragon Tattoo, that I was just kind of copying myself from Social Network. And he's like, and I'm like, you try to find inventive ways of to shoot a computer screen.
Like there's two ways and that's it. And everybody does those two ways. Yeah. No, although when they finally start to instant message, hearing that chime of the instant message, I was taken back to like 2002, 2003, when we didn't have smartphones yet. So your aim was on your computer in your dorm room, and you were away when you were in class, and when you weren't, you were there, and you heard the chirp because you kept your speakers cranked, and you knew someone was saying hey, and it was a less connected time.
But that was one thing I really liked about this movie, is the straight up nostalgia and the romantic Wild West of the internet.
Met in a chat room and talked about things, and
met in a chat room and talked, and she kept saying, she's like, oh, I did it as a joke, and and that's how we met. Like I went to college between 2004 and 2008, and I think around 2005 one of my professors said, like, oh yeah, I met my husband online, and everybody had 1,000 questions. And this was in 2005. This is 7 years after You've Got Mail came out, and people were still like, really? Like, right. you're meeting your...
There was way more stigma. Now a vast majority of people meet their significant others online.
Vast majority of people. Like, I dare you to find someone who is of average dating age who does not have an online dating profile on their phone. Like that. It's insane.
I'm just glad I'm not in the sea anymore. I'm definitely...
Oh my gosh, I
definitely
can't even
glad
imagine. Oh my, I'm so happy I'm married and too old.
Yes.
But it's a completely different conversation. It's something that our kids are not going to have. Like, they're going to look at You've Got Mail like we look at 2001.
Yeah, what do they say? Sorry,
the joke's always funnier when you have to explain it, but
Oh no, to quote Meatwad from Aqua Teen Hunger Force, I get it. It ain't making me laugh, but I get it.
Hey, you thought it was funny? Screw you.
You
laughed on the inside.
Yes, I did.
All right. So, John, looking back in 1998. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't ask. Was this your first time watching? You've got
it was.
None of us asked this. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I mentioned earlier.
Question, but
I mentioned earlier, Darren. I'm glad you listened to me when I talked earlier. That's fine. That's fine. Doesn't hurt at all.
You watched it like 60 minutes before we recorded.
You're like, hey.
132 minutes before we recorded.
Hey, as long as it's earlier than the length of the movie, you're all good.
Yes.
But let's start with you with your overall rating. But again, your overall jumping into.
I'm sorry. I have to interrupt because Darren, there was one time, like I was texting you and I said, I think we might have to move recording tonight because I'm not quite sure if I'm going to make it. Things are popping up here and there. And Darren, you said to me, they're like, oh yeah, like we have to record in 30 minutes and I'm still watching it. I was like, well, how much do you have left? And you're like 80 minutes. And I'm like, I don't think you're going to make it either, Darren.
Well, I'd seen the movie before and I was just fast forwarding certain parts. I'm like, okay, then that happens. Look, just because you can see my viewing history doesn't mean you get to judge me by it. That was our bargain.
Anyway, I'm sorry, John.
But John, first time viewing and your overall rating on You've Got Mail.
Well, we all know how I felt about Sleepless in Seattle and all of the problems I had. And I think you can tell from this conversation.
You gave it a 2. So
Yes, I did. Deservedly so. And I think that this is one of those things where I went in not with a chip on my shoulder, but I went in saying nowhere to go but up. Like that. I felt that Sleepless in Seattle had given me my basement. And at the worst, I was going to be standing in there unless something absolutely catastrophic happened. Like for me to go down to 1-star level, this would have had to have been like, and Tom Hanks was, he had 2 different marriages happening at the same time.
It merges with Philadelphia, and he's actually have AIDS, right? And he kills Meg Ryan, and it's like, right. Wait, what?
By driving the car off the bridge and all of that sort of thing. I found this to address a lot of the problems that I had with Sleepless in Seattle. My general impression of it, honestly, is somebody who, even though I know Sleepless in Seattle was massively successful, the sense I have is somebody who learned what to refine between films so that they said, okay, I'm getting another pass. What could work even better? Even if they felt it worked fine last time, how could they do it better this time? I think a lot of the relationship stuff is addressed. I think that a lot of the side character stuff works better. I think that a lot of everything works better with this movie. Is this an instant classic where I'm going to go out and buy the Steelbook 4K UHD and get it signed at a convention when Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan?
I don't know if that exists of this particular movie, but
well, what a crime!
Awesome.
Shouldn't every single version of every movie be this?
Not everything needs to be a 4K Steelbook, okay?
It's amazing what is.
That is true. Very. Listen, if
Criterion version of You've Got Mail,
if Phantasm can get a 4K remaster, I always go back to that one. If that damn movie can get a 4K remaster, anything can.
Well, I mean, there's a Criterion of Armageddon, so.
Hey, you watch your mouth.
Now we're gonna get hate mail again now because everybody's gonna be like, "It's a great movie," and just come.
Look, it does a good job of explaining why you can't just train astronauts to go into space. Instead, you must send the oil workers.
Well,
let's not train astronauts how to drill. Let's train drillers how to astronaut.
I mean, those are your only 2 options. So
yeah, you couldn't fire a thing at the asteroid, try to knock it off course. So, Anyway,
hey, they discussed that in a movie. Now you have me defending them. Okay,
You've Got Mail. So
anyway, yeah, we only had 1 missile we could have ever fired at it. So I think that all of that said, I think that a lot of those problems I had the first time around are addressed here. I do find, I find Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan more charming this time around. And so I'm going to wind up coming in strong with this one compared to last time and give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Awesome. Well, Tristan, I'm taking the count that this is not your first time viewing. Is it the first time viewing with the missus, or is it on regular rotation? How was this viewing experience this time, and overall impression?
This is not the first time I've viewed it. This is not the first time I've viewed it with my wife, but this is not something that's in the regular rotation. Sleepless in Seattle, that's in rotation. But You've Got Mail is not. Even though I dig this movie. I love this movie. This is a feel good movie to me. This is a movie that I enjoy. It's a movie that I think about sometimes. Like there's certain moments that pop into my head. Um, throughout, like when Tom Hanks like when Meg Ryan begs Tom Hanks to leave, like, please just leave, and he's like, okay, fine, and then he just sits right behind her, so they're back to back. Like, that's hilarious to me. Or like when he closes the door on the balloon and says like, oh, thank God it wasn't the fish. Apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently that just happened on set. Like that wasn't scripted or planned.
It felt like an improv moment.
Yeah, that was Tom Hanks
Yeah.
being funny on set, and they're just like, oh, screw it, we're keeping that. That's hilarious. Like there, and like when Hanks is in the little car, and he's like, you see the two kids, and you see him, and he just kind of waves. The movie is filled with little moments like that really make me smile and make me happy. And when they mention the Godfather, the garnish bit, so I could go on and on and on. I really like this movie, but sometimes the structure gets me. I think the structure is a little weird. Part of me, upon rewatch, part of me is just like, this feels very rushed at the end. Like we have 5 minutes of them actually developing a real friendship and relationship in person. And I know that's 5 minutes more than what we got in Sleepless in Seattle. So it's a little, I'm a little bit of a
I'd say it's more
here.
like 10, 15, but it is short compared to runtime.
Right. 15, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's 15. I think it might be less than that.
Well, again, I would count it after he finds out. Like everything after the he's find out is him developing that relationship. But I get what you're saying. She's not really on that train until the very, very end. But I get what you're saying.
Yes, I think that's a very important distinction that I didn't make, Darren. I think that's fair. That's very fair. I like this movie. I love this movie. It's not a perfect movie, so I give it a strong 4. I think this is a strong 4. It's nothing to sneeze at. I like it, but there's some things that could change.
Well, this is not a new first time
watching
for me. Go ahead.
Can I interject here really quick?
Anytime, John.
I get to do this because this is a fluid thing, but I was too harsh. I was waffling between 3.5 and 4, and honestly, I'm going to go up to a 4. I'm calling the audible. I'm going to a 4.
I'm proud of
you,
John. 4. It's a big man.
I feel like I accomplished something. I don't know what.
No, I wasn't really paying attention, and I just decided to do that. So there you go.
But yes, so moving on. So this is not the first time I've watched You've Got Mail, but it has been a little while. I probably watched this early dating, early marriage time, but it's been a couple years. So again, it's funny how there'll be some moments that will definitely hit you different in different phases of your life. So the whole ghostly image of her dancing with her mother was just like right in the feels. And I'm like, yeah, because you don't know how long your parents are gonna be around. And I'm okay. She's losing the bookstore and it looks so nice. And, but I love this is a fun movie. I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than Sleepless. Again, just saying because it's a Meg Ryan Tom Hanks duo, but I think again the front could have used a little bit of unknotting, not, and maybe if that had entailed moving that tipping point or what I like to call like the moment when he finds out, if the earlier that happens, I think the better the movie is, because it gives you more of the progression of their relationship. Obviously, she cannot find out until the very end. That's just how this particular story has to work, of her making that choice of it. I wished it was you. Like that moment has to be towards the very, very end of the movie. But the courtship part like I love that part. That's a great phase of the movie. And again, they do a good job of the beginning of, because Tom Hanks isn't like a perfect guy, but he's also not like a irredeemable, asshole. Like, it's not like that kind of a transition. It's more like, I'm going to take a step back, look at what I've done in this person's life. And he kind of, he calls himself out. He's like, I've been nothing but mean to you since we met. And it's like, yeah, dude, like you need to step up. So I also give this movie a solid 4. It's a fun movie. You're just cheering for him at the end, and you're so glad they worked through that weird stalking thing that happened in Seattle. It's all better. I mean, heads and tails, I love the romantic connection is by far superior to Sleepless in Seattle, which was practically non-existent. But no, I think they, like we've talked about, they balance the tightrope. Yeah, it's this weird 90s time when the internet was new and not like super stalkery. So like the fact that this guy just walks into your apartment because he didn't get buzzed in, like it could go wrong, but it doesn't.
That scene was a little weird. If I could change something, like he's like sitting on her bed and like getting his fingers all close.
Like he's almost giving her a back rub. Like when he puts his hand up to shush her, we're like, okay, a threshold has been crossed. Like, this is a moment. True.
Dude, it was weird.
And the real villain of the movie is the person who clearly saw that he was talking to someone
and just let him in anyway. Didn't care.
That's the real villain of this movie. It's just
I thought it was capitalism, but you're right. It was
no. When you go to a neighborhood and like there's a gate and like somebody's just like laying there in wait for somebody to buzz it, and then like they draft in behind them.
I like in the movies where they go and they push all the buttons because they know someone is not going to care and just buzz in and not check it.
Yep. Also true.
Someone did that to me at 6 a.m. I'll never forgive them.
All right. Well, we're giving You've Got Mail a wonderful 4 across the board. And guys, today is officially 2 years that we've been podcasting as the three of us in.
Oh, whoa.
So we've gone through a lot of movies, but still a lot more to come.
And we all met online.
And we did.
That's true.
I didn't know who you were for a while. And, no, I'm just kidding.
You've got podcasts.
It did not happen at all like this movie. But I went online, looked at your letterbox, and was like, I don't know if we can be friends, but we'll
Darren, I know we're trying to wrap up, but Darren, we met at Vegas, right? Like that
was the first time in person we met. Yes.
And John, we met when I went on a business trip to DC, right?
Yes, and we also met for dinner one time. I met you halfway between the city where you were going and where I live. Because your first comment when you walked off the plane, you told me was, "Oh, I can't believe how humid it is," and I said, "Oh no, this is actually a really pleasant night. What are you talking about?"
Well, and John and I met when he was on a business trip down in San Diego.
That's true.
So all we have to do is find a central spot that's not Chicago to gather together.
That is the central spot.
That's why I just call it out. That's why.
Indianapolis is technically easier to reach from anywhere in the country. That's what they said during Star Wars Celebration 2. That's why they picked the city. That's all I got to say.
Yes, because that's how airplanes work. But no, you're right. We've all met through online. Because of online, we've been able to stream the movies we watch and talk about them with friends. And back when web pages would load an image at a time, you could think that will never happen, but it did. It finally caught up. So again, as we close the hallway of Ephron here on Houselights, John, where are we going next? Deep below the surface.
Well, we are going to go to the portico of Peterson, and we will.
We're not calling it that.
We will. Yeah, we are. We will go in. Listen, it's either that or it's the basement of Boat. Like it's one of those two things. But we're going to look at the 1980s work of Wolfgang Peterson, and that to kick that off. Oh boy,
little movie.
We're gonna go with the director's cut. The director's cut of Das Boot which clocks in at, I believe, 208 minutes. And
I hate that we established that we watch the director's cut.
Yeah,
hey, you guys established that.
The director's preferred version because this is a director's led podcast. And I'm like, oh God, if only we could bend the rules this one time.
Yeah, too bad.
We're not broadcast edited for time version. We can
the originals
an hour and a half.
The original cinema version was 149 minutes, and but at least we're not choosing to go with the original uncut version, which clocked in at 308 minutes. So,
God,
for anybody that wants to make fun of David Lynch's third season of Twin Peaks, Wolfgang Petersen was the real trailblazer here. So join us for Das Boot, the director's cut, next on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.